Marry you? Fix your pipes first, we're not of the same class.
He knelt with trembling hands, a $12 bouquet clutched tight, and the woman he loved laughed in his face. Marry you? She sneered. Fix your pipes first. That clip broke the internet. But what the world didn't know was that the poor mechanic she humiliated was a billionaire, and the next time he got on one knee, it wasn't for her. So why is the man she mocked proposing to her sister? And what will he say when Marilyn finally whispers, "I'm sorry"? To understand this moment, the ring, the room, the silence, we have to rewind 6 months to a man who hid his last name, traded a Ferrari for a rusted truck, and met two sisters who saw the same stranger in two very different ways. Welcome back, my beautiful family and friends. If you're hooked in and you're ready to enjoy this story, click subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from, because tomorrow I will be giving you another story just as interesting as this one, and you don't want to miss it. Now let us begin. Johnson Matthews didn't look like a billionaire. That was the point. The 2008 Silverado he drove had a dented tailgate and a passenger door that stuck. His apartment, a studio above a laundromat on Maple Street, cost $750 a month and smelled faintly of dryer sheets. He introduced himself as John, worked odd jobs through temp agencies, and ate dinner at Rosie's Diner 3 nights a week. No one knew. Not the landlord, not the waitress who called him on, not even the volunteers at the Riverside Community Foundation, where he'd been showing up in work boots and a faded flannel for the past 2 months. Publicly, Johnson Matthews was a name whispered in boardrooms and featured in Time's Forbes asterisk. His foundation had rebuilt entire towns after Hurricane Claudia. His portfolio included hospitals, schools, and infrastructure projects across 5 states. But privately, he was just John, and he was watching. The foundation gala was 3 weeks out. Marilyn Kurt stood in the center of the pavilion like a conductor before an orchestra, clipboard in hand, barking orders at a crew of decorators. She was stunning, tall, blonde, wrapped in designer athleisure that somehow looked formal. No, the orchids go times there asterisk, she snapped, waving a manicured hand. And someone tell me why the lighting isn't gold-toned yet. She didn't notice John crouched near the breaker box, rewiring a faulty panel. But she did notice the donor in the tailored suit who walked in 10 minutes later. Her smile switched on like stage lights. "Mr. Harrington, so wonderful to see you again." John tightened a screw and said nothing. Alana Kurt arrived an hour later, arms full of supply boxes and a tired smile on her face. She was Marilyn's stepsister, same last name, different worlds. Where Marilyn glowed with polish, Alana radiated warmth. Her hair was pulled into a messy bun, her jeans paint-stained from the children's clinic she'd been organizing all week. She spotted John by the electrical panel. "Hey, you're the one who fixed the power at the clinic, right?" He looked up. "Yeah, John." "Alana." She set the boxes down and extended a hand. "Seriously, thank you. Those kids were so excited when the lights came back on. You have no idea what that meant." He shook her hand. Her grip was firm, genuine. "Just doing my job." "Well, you do it better than most." Across the room, Marilyn's laugh rang out light, performative, aimed at someone important. Alana glanced over, then back at John with a knowing look. "She's a lot," Alana said quietly, "but she means well." John didn't reply. He just watched as Marilyn tossed her hair, leaning closer to the donor, her attention a laser focused only on those who mattered. Later, he overheard her in the hallway. "That maintenance guy? John?" Marilyn giggled to another volunteer. "Sweet, I guess. But he probably makes like $20 an hour. Not exactly my type." The volunteer laughed. John didn't. He just filed it away, another data point in a test neither sister knew they were taking. The roses cost $12. Johnson bought them from the corner market on 5th Street, nothing fancy, just a modest bouquet wrapped in brown paper. In his other hand, he carried a handwritten note, folded into quarters. His palms were sweating. He'd built empires, negotiated billion-dollar deals, spoken before Congress. But this walking into the Riverside Foundation gala as John, carrying flowers for a woman who didn't know his real name, this terrified him. He told himself it was a test, but somewhere deeper, he wondered if he'd actually fallen for her. The ballroom glittered. Crystal chandeliers, string quartets, women in gowns that cost more than most people's rent. Marilyn Kurt stood at the center of it all, radiant in a white silk dress, surrounded by influencers, donors, and men in expensive watches. She was laughing, head thrown back, champagne flute raised when she saw him. Her smile faltered. John crossed the marble floor in his cleanest flannel and second-hand slacks, bouquet in hand. Conversations dimmed, heads turned. "Marilyn," he said quietly, "can I talk to you?" Her eyes darted to the crowd. "Not here. I just wanted to... Asterisk, please. Asterisk." Her voice dropped to a hiss. "I can't be seen with you." He should have stopped, should have turned around. Instead, he knelt. The room went silent. "I know I'm not what you expected," John said, voice steady despite the heat crawling up his neck. "But I wanted you to know. I care about you. I see who you are. And I think..." Marilyn's laugh cut through the air like breaking glass. "Are you times serious times right now?" She stepped back, one hand on her hip. "A mechanic? Proposing to times me asterisk?" Phones lifted. Cameras focused. "Marilyn, stop." Alana's voice came from somewhere near the dessert table, low and urgent. But Marilyn was performing now. "This is adorable, really. But sweetheart, you're sweet and all. But..." She gestured vaguely at him, her smile cruel and bright. "You can't actually think we're in the same league." The crowd murmured. Someone snickered. John stayed kneeling for one more breath. Then he stood, slowly, and met her eyes. "Love isn't impressed," he said softly. "It's inspired. One day, Marilyn, you'll understand the difference." He set the roses on the floor gently, like they still mattered, and turned. The crowd parted. He walked through the silence, past the stairs, past Alana's stricken face, and out into the cool night air. By midnight, the video had 200,000 views. By morning, it was trending. Asterisk, asterisk, socialite humiliates poor suitor at charity gala. Asterisk, asterisk. The comments were ruthless. Asterisk, imagine being that heartless. Asterisk, asterisk, he dodged a bullet. Asterisk, asterisk, she belongs to the streets. Asterisk, Marilyn woke to 47 missed calls and a PR nightmare. And John Johnson Matthews sat in his studio apartment above the laundromat, staring at his phone. He didn't feel victorious. He just felt tired. But the test was over, and he had his answer. The hangar was quiet except for the hum of overhead lights. Johnson sat on the concrete floor, back against the wheel of his private jet, phone in hand. The video played again, and again. Each loop a fresh sting, Marilyn's laugh, the crowd's silence, the roses abandoned on marble. He should have felt vindicated. Instead, he felt hollow. Watching it won't change what happened. Evelyn Grace's voice echoed across the hangar. She walked toward him with the deliberate calm of someone who'd seen him through worse market crashes, hostile takeovers, his father's death. She'd been his godmother since birth, his CFO for a decade, and the only person who knew about the double life. Johnson didn't look up. "I got my answer." "Did you?" Evelyn lowered herself onto an equipment crate, her silver hair catching the light. "Or did you just confirm what you were already afraid of?" He finally met her eyes. "She didn't see me, Evelyn. She saw a paycheck, a status symbol. I gave her every opportunity to..." "To what? Love a stranger?" Evelyn's tone was sharp but not unkind. "You tested her, Johnson. You set the trap. Don't be surprised when people fail tests they didn't know they were taking." Silence. Johnson set the phone down. "So what now? Go back? Pretend none of this happened?" "No." Evelyn leaned forward, elbows on her knees. "You finish what you started. Not for revenge, for clarity. You wanted to know who sees times, you asterisk, not your name. That question doesn't get answered by running." He exhaled slowly. "The Adamerge Hub." "Yes. The asterisk asterisk Adamerge Tech Empowerment Hub, asterisk asterisk, a 40,000 square foot innovation center designed to bring coding classes, maker spaces, and entrepreneurship programs to Riverside's underserved communities. Johnson had been overseeing it quietly for months, working as a site coordinator under his alias. It was 3 weeks from completion. "I'll finish it," he said quietly. "Then I'm done." Evelyn studied him. "And, after, I go back to being myself. No more hiding." He paused. "But no grand reveal either. I'll just let the truth unfold." "And Marilyn," his jaw tightened. "She made her choice." "And Alana?" Johnson looked away. He thought of the woman who'd thanked him for fixing the clinic lights, who spoke to him like he mattered, who'd whispered times, stop times, when her sister tore him apart. "She's different," he admitted. "Then don't let pain turn into pride," Evelyn said softly. "You asked for truth. Now you have to be strong enough to honor it, even when it hurts." The next morning, Johnson stood in front of the bathroom mirror. He picked up the razor, paused, then set it back down. The stubble stayed. The flannel stayed. The Silverado, the studio apartment, the name John, all of it stayed. He wasn't hiding anymore. He was Time's finishing asterisk, and when the Adamage Hub opened its doors, the world would see what he'd built not as a billionaire writing checks from a distance, but as a man who showed up, hands dirty, heart exposed. He grabbed his keys and headed for the door. The mission wasn't over. It was just beginning. 3 months later, the sun beat down on the Adamage construction site like a hammer on an anvil. Johnson tightened the last bolt on a solar panel, sweat dripping from his jaw onto the metal frame. Around him, a crew of local youth teenagers from the surrounding neighborhoods mirrored his movements, their faces set with concentration. "Angle it 15 degrees south," he called out. "You want maximum exposure during peak hours." A kid named Marcus adjusted his panel. "Like this? Perfect." Alana Kurt appeared at the base of the scaffold, clipboard in one hand, water bottles in the other. Her hair was pulled back in a bandana, her shirt dusty from organizing supply deliveries all morning. "Break time," she announced, "before someone passes out." The crew descended gratefully. Johnson stayed up, checking voltage readings. "That includes you, John," Alana said, shading her eyes as she looked up at him. 5 more minutes. "That's what you said an hour ago." He smiled despite himself and climbed down. She noticed things, how he always ate last, making sure the younger volunteers got full plates first, how he carried the heaviest equipment without complaining, his shoulders bearing weight that should have been distributed across 3 people, how Terence, one of the electricians who'd been injured in a fall 2 weeks prior, quietly mentioned that his hospital bills had been taken care of by an anonymous donor. Alana had her suspicions, but she didn't pry. The rainstorm hit on a Tuesday night. Alana was alone in the site office, filing permits, when the lights died. Thunder rolled across the sky. Rain hammered the metal roof like drumfire. She grabbed a flashlight and headed toward the generator shed. John was already there. He was drenched, kneeling in the mud, hands deep in the generator's guts. His headlamp cut through the darkness as he worked, methodical and unbothered by the downpour. "John," he looked up, rain streaming down his face. "Generators flooded. Give me 10 minutes. You'll catch pneumonia. I'll be fine." She disappeared, back into the office. When she returned, she carried a thermos of soup and a towel. She crouched beside him under the overhang, unscrewing the lid. "Eat. Alana, eat, or I'm telling Marcus you're a hypocrite who doesn't follow his own safety rules." He huffed a quiet laugh and accepted the cup. They sat in silence, rain curtaining the world beyond their small shelter. "You give like someone who's lost something precious," Alana said softly, watching him. John stared into the soup. "What makes you say that?" "Because people who have everything give differently. They write checks, attend galas, get their names on plaques." She paused. "You give like you're trying to prove something to yourself, maybe. Or like you're searching for something you can't buy." He was quiet for a long moment. "Maybe I'm just learning what peace really costs," he said finally. Alana studied his profile, the stubble, the tired eyes, the calloused hands that didn't match the careful way he spoke. "You're not just a handyman, are you?" He met her gaze. "Does it matter?" She thought about it. "No, but I think you carry more than toolboxes, John, and one day you're going to have to set it down." Thunder rumbled. The generator coughed to life, and somewhere in the space between them, something shifted, not attraction, not yet, but recognition. She saw him. Not his name, not his wealth, just him. The ribbon was green, Riverside High's school color. Alana held one end, Mayor Chen held the other. Between them stretched the entrance to the *** Adamage Tech Empowerment Hub. ** 40,000 square feet of gleaming solar panels, floor-to-ceiling windows, and equipment that would have made Silicon Valley jealous. Inside, rows of 3D printers hummed. Laser cutters waited. 20 brand-new computer stations lined the main classroom, each one loaded with coding software, design programs, and educational tools. Outside, 200 people applauded. John stood in the back, arms crossed, wearing the same flannel he'd worn the day they broke ground. "Ladies and gentlemen," Mayor Chen's voice boomed through the speakers, "thanks to the vision of our Riverside Foundation and the dedication of countless volunteers, we are proud to open the first fully solar-powered technology education center in the state." The crowd roared. Alana caught John's eye across the sea of heads. She smiled. He nodded. The local news arrived within the hour. Channel 7, the Times Riverside Gazette, *, even a stringer from the state paper. They swarmed Alana, the foundation's volunteer coordinator, the woman whose name appeared on every permit, every planning document. "Miss Kurt, this is an incredible achievement." "It's not mine," Alana interrupted, stepping aside to gesture toward the crew of workers and volunteers scattered across the lawn. "This belongs to everyone who showed up, especially John." She scanned the crowd, found him trying to slip toward the parking lot. "John, get over here." He froze. She waved him over insistently. Reluctantly, he approached. "This man," Alana said, gripping his arm and pulling him into frame, "worked harder than anyone. He installed half these panels himself, trained our youth volunteers, fixed every problem we couldn't solve." She looked directly at the reporter. "If you write this story, you put his name in it, not as a footnote, as a partner." The reporter nodded, scribbling notes. "And your last name, John?" "Just John is fine," he said quietly. Alana frowned but didn't push. What the articles didn't mention, what times couldn't times be mentioned, was the trail of anonymous donations that made it all possible. The $2 million equipment grant from an unnamed benefactor. The fully funded scholarships for 50 underprivileged girls to attend coding boot camps. The endowment that guaranteed the hub's operating costs for the next decade. Johnson had routed it all through shell foundations and intermediary non-profits. Clean. Untraceable. Evelyn had called it reckless altruism. He called it necessary. 2 weeks after the opening, the hub was already thriving. Girls who'd never touched a computer were building websites. A teenager named Shanice designed her first mobile app. Marcus started a robotics club. John helped where he could, teaching basic circuits, troubleshooting software, staying late to lock up. And Alana was always there. Not managing him, not above him. Asterisk, beside, times him. She brought coffee during long evenings, laughed at his terrible jokes, argued with him about pedagogy and panel placement and whether Python or JavaScript should be taught first. One night, as they walked to their cars under a sky full of stars, she said, "You know what's weird?" "What?" "I've worked with a lot of rich people, donors, board members, people who give millions and want their names on buildings." She glanced at him. "But I've never worked with anyone like you." "I'm not rich, Alana." "I know." She smiled. "That's not what I meant." He didn't ask her to explain. But for the first time in years, Johnson Matthews felt something he'd forgotten existed. Peace. Not because he'd proven anything, but because someone saw him, truly saw him, and chose to stand beside him anyway. Not for his name, for his presence. The headlines came in waves. First, asterisk, heartless heiress, inside Marilyn Kurt's cruelty, asterisk, then, asterisk, luxury brands drop Kurt after viral gala scandal, asterisk. Finally, asterisk, where is Marilyn Kurt now? Asterisk, the answer, 3 months later, was nowhere anyone wanted to be. It started with the clients. The Vanderbilt wedding cancelled, the museum fundraiser going in a different direction. One by one, contracts evaporated like morning dew under scrutiny. Her Instagram comments became a wasteland of vitriol. Asterisk, karma is real. Asterisk, you deserve this. Asterisk, imagine being this shallow. Asterisk, she deleted the app, then reinstalled it, then deleted it again. Luxury brands that once sent her free handbags now ignored her emails. The penthouse lease came due. Her savings spent on maintaining an image she could no longer afford ran dry. That's when Gregory Pierce appeared. Tall, charming, an investor who promised to help her rebuild. He wined and dined her, talked about launching a new event planning firm, asked her to consolidate her remaining assets into a joint venture. She signed everything. 2 weeks later, Gregory Pierce vanished. along with $340,000. The step-family home upstate smelled like pine and old books. Marilyn stood on the porch with 2 suitcases and the last shreds of her pride. Her stepmother opened the door with a sad, knowing smile. "Come in, sweetheart." Marilyn's throat tightened. She hadn't cried yet, not through the bankruptcy, not through the police report, not through the humiliating calls to her father. But standing here, holding luggage from a life that no longer existed, she felt the tears coming. "Just for a few weeks," Marilyn whispered, "until I figure things out." Her stepmother pulled her into a hug. "Stay as long as you need." The living room was warm. A fire crackled in the hearth. Alana sat on the couch, legs tucked beneath her, laughing at something the man beside her had said. The man in the flannel shirt. The man with the kind eyes and calloused hands. Asterisk, John. Asterisk. Marilyn stopped in the doorway, her breath catching. He looked up, coffee mug halfway to his lips, and their eyes met. For a moment, neither spoke. Then he set the mug down gently and stood. "Good evening, Miss Marilyn." His voice was even, polite, no malice, no triumph. Somehow, that made it worse. Alana glanced between them, confused. "Wait, you two know each other?" Marilyn forced a laugh, brittle and too loud. "Oh, we met briefly. At a charity thing. I barely remember, honestly." She waved a dismissive hand, but her fingers trembled. John didn't correct her. He just watched, quiet and steady, as she scrambled to rebuild the mask that had been her armor for so long. "John's been helping at the hub," Alana said, oblivious. "He's amazing. I don't know what we'd do without him." "How nice." Marilyn's smile felt like glass. "I'm sure you're very helpful." "I try," John said simply. Silence pressed into the room. Marilyn saw it now, the way Alana looked at him, not with hunger or calculation, but with respect, affection, the kind of regard Marilyn had spent years chasing from men in tailored suits and never found. And here it was, given freely, to a man she'd humiliated in front of hundreds. Guilt real, suffocating guilt, flooded her chest. "I should unpack," Marilyn stammered, retreating toward the stairs. "Dinner's at 6, her stepmother called after her. Marilyn nodded without turning around. She climbed the stairs to the guest room, small, plain, nothing like the penthouse, and closed the door. For the first time in months, the spotlight was gone, and all that remained were shadows. And the memory of roses on marble. The invitation arrived on cream cardstock, embossed in gold. Asterisk, asterisk, Admerge, Foundation, Launch Gala, asterisk, 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 celebrating innovation, community, and the vision of a mystery philanthropist, asterisk, asterisk, black tie. The Metropolitan Hall, New York City, asterisk. Marilyn held it like a lottery ticket. This was it, her way back in, a room full of wealth, influence, connections, everything she'd lost. She didn't care that the gown she wore was 3 seasons old or that she'd borrowed her stepmother's jewelry. She just needed to be seen again. The Metropolitan Hall glittered like a jewel box. Chandeliers the size of cars, ice sculptures, a string orchestra playing Vivaldi, women in gowns that cost more than Marilyn used to spend on weekends. She smiled, networked, pretended the past 6 months hadn't gutted her. Across the room, Alana stood near the stage in a simple navy dress, looking uncomfortable but radiant. She'd been invited as the hub's volunteer coordinator, a courtesy, she'd assumed. She had no idea. The lights dimmed. A woman in a sharp burgundy suit took the stage. Silver hair, commanding presence, Evelyn Grace. "Good evening," she said, her voice cutting through the murmur of conversation. "Thank you all for joining us tonight. For months, you've heard whispers about the Admerge Foundation, about solar-powered community centers, scholarships for underprivileged youth, innovation hubs rising in forgotten towns." The room leaned in. "But tonight," Evelyn continued, "I want to introduce you to the man who made it all possible, a man who chose to build in silence, to serve without recognition, and to test the hearts of those around him, not from a boardroom, but from the ground itself." Marilyn's stomach tightened. "Ladies and gentlemen," Evelyn said, stepping aside, "please welcome the founder and CEO of Admerge Holdings, philanthropist and visionary Mr. Johnson Adam." The applause started, then stopped. Because the man walking onto the stage, the man in the perfectly tailored black tuxedo, confident and composed, was Time's John. Asterisk. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Marilyn's breath left her body. Cameras flashed. Whispers erupted. That's the guy from the video. Wait, he's Fuad Johnson Adam? Oh my God. Alana sat frozen, her hand covering her mouth. Johnson stood at the microphone, calm as still water. Good evening, he said. Some of you know me as John. Some of you know me from a viral video where I was humiliated at a charity gala. He paused. Both versions are true. Nervous laughter scattered through the audience. 6 months ago, I walked away from my name, my wealth, my reputation. I wanted to know who would see times me times not my portfolio, not my foundation, just me. His eyes swept the room. I met someone who valued wealth over worth, who saw people as transactions. He didn't name her. He didn't have to. But I also met a woman who taught me that love is never impressed, it's inspired. That goodness doesn't shine for an audience. It shows up when no one's watching. He turned. Alana Kurt, would you join me? The room erupted. Alana's eyes widened. She shook her head slightly. Times no. I can't times, but the applause swelled, insistent and warm. Slowly, trembling, she stood. She walked to the stage, and Johnson extended his hand. She took it. This woman, Johnson said, his voice steady but his eyes soft, worked beside me in the mud, the rain, the heat. She never asked what I had, only what I needed. She saw me when I was invisible, and that times is worth more than everything in this room combined. The applause was deafening. Alana's tears caught the stage lights, and in the back, hidden among the crowd, Marilyn Kurt stood alone, her champagne glass trembling in her hand, her carefully rebuilt mask finally, irreparably shattered. The gala had moved into its second hour, champagne flowing, deals being whispered, cameras still flashing, but Johnson slipped behind the velvet curtain backstage, searching for a moment of quiet. He found Marilyn instead. She stood near the service exit, mascara smudged, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. When she saw him, she flinched like she'd been caught stealing. Johnson. Her voice cracked on his name. His Time's real Time's name. He stopped, waited. Please, she whispered. I need to say this. I was cruel. I was blind. I saw you as nothing, and I was wrong. So wrong. She wiped at her face. Please forgive me. Johnson studied her not with anger, but with something softer. Sadness, maybe, or understanding. I forgave you the night you mocked me, Marilyn. She blinked, confused. Forgiveness isn't reunion, he continued gently. It's release. I let it go so it wouldn't poison me. That doesn't mean we rewrite the story. It just means I'm no longer bound by it. Marilyn's breath hitched. Then, why her? Why my sister? Because she saw me before I could afford to be seen. The words landed quiet but final. Marilyn nodded, tears spilling freely now. Johnson reached into his jacket and pulled out a cream envelope. He held it out. What is this? She asked. A second chance. There's enough in there to rebuild your design career with one condition. His gaze was steady. Use it to create beauty that time serves times people, not egos, not status, people. Marilyn took the envelope with trembling hands. Thank you, she whispered. Johnson nodded once, then turned and walked back toward the light, toward the laughter, toward the woman waiting for him at the edge of the stage. The beach was quiet. No photographers, no guest list, just 20 people who mattered, barefoot in the sand, as the sun dipped low over the Pacific. Johnson wore a simple linen shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows. Alana wore a cream dress and a handmade bracelet she'd woven herself from leather and turquoise. The officiant spoke. They exchanged vows they'd written on napkins at Rosie's diner, and when he kissed her, the small crowd erupted in cheers. Marcus, Shanice, the hub volunteers, Evelyn Grace dabbing at her eyes with a handkerchief. Marilyn sat in the back row, clapping through her tears. The reception was held under string lights in Alana's step-family backyard. No ice sculptures, no champagne towers, just good food, warm laughter, and a playlist someone made on their phone. Alana stood, clinking her glass. I want to say something, she began, her voice shaking slightly. She looked at Johnson. This man came into my life disguised as someone the world would overlook, and in doing so, he found a truth richer than gold. Johnson smiled. He didn't test me to humiliate anyone, Alana continued. He tested the world to protect his own heart, and I'm grateful every day that I passed, not because I knew who he was, but because I didn't need to. Applause rippled. Johnson stood, taking her hand. Wealth reveals character, he said quietly, his voice carrying across the yard. It never creates it. I spent months looking for someone who could see past the surface. And the woman who saw my heart, he turned to Alana, his eyes shining. She became my home. Alana kissed him. The crowd cheered, and in the back, Marilyn Kurt raised her glass, not in envy, not in bitterness, but in something fragile and new. Gratitude, for forgiveness, for release, for the chance to rebuild, not who she was, but who she could still become. Thank you for watching to the end. I believe you enjoyed it. We have a lot of other interesting stories like this lined up for you already, so click the image showing on your screen to watch the next. Don't forget to subscribe.